So this collective became closed off or sort of guarded for a very good reason. It's giving that like some of you may have even closed yourself off emotionally, like not really emotionally, but like you protected the core of yourself or like the truth of yourself from the time when you were like a little kid. Like people could have projected like, oh, you're so quiet or you're so secretive even as like, a 7-year old or something. For some reason or another. Like that's the part that's not for everybody, but it could be that like, from the time you were a child you learned that it was not safe for you to express your like deepest inner truth or whatever, or to always like, I don't know. There's a difference between like speaking your mind in a way of like defending yourself or like standing up for something you believe in versus like speaking your mind in like a stream of consciousness type of way that would like allow people to understand you. You know what I mean? So it's giving that like in some form or another, uh even if you are not the type of person who sort of like holds on to that chip on your shoulder, because I know some of like, and I'm not like criticizing you if you are somebody who's like that, we all sort of like process things differently, but it's giving that like some people, hmm, it's like you may have a mask that you didn't quite realize is a mask, or just like something that is like so perfectly affixed to your face that like you're not necessarily like fake, but it's giving that like you have been willing to show everybody like, you know, the good parts of yourself or something like that. I don't know. It's kind of hard to explain. Um it's sort of like how it's easier to just say I love you to somebody versus saying, I don't know, it's saying like, I don't know, it's almost less vulnerable to just say I love you to somebody than it is to say, I was lonely in life before I met you. You know what I mean? There's like a difference. And it's something about like, I think that you express yourself in the way that you, I don't know. I think that you're very balanced and logical, but also, you're not like emotionally unavailable. I think that you are emotionally available. It's just that like it's sort of the way that like a therapist is. I'm not saying that you have been adopting that role in people's lives or anything like that, but it's almost giving that like you feel more comfortable being in that role in a friendship or like in a connection than you are to like allow somebody else to like be your therapist. Like, and I know, oh, it's controversial, like, oh, you shouldn't have like, a personal connection that's like that. So again, it's just an example. I think that like this has been something that you may not have been aware of for a really long time, because I don't think that like, yeah, so maybe this is a confirmation or just something that's bringing it to your awareness that like you did this in a way to like protect yourself, to the point where like you may even sort of like be able to control when you laugh, because you're like, I don't know if I should like expose to these people like my pure joy and like what that looks like you may even subconsciously or like be trained to like change the way that your sneezes sound or the way that your cough sounds or the way that you like, and that could present in like, obviously you could come across as like poised and stuff because you're aware of those things, right? But it's giving that like you may choose politeness and etiquette over actually telling somebody how you actually feel about things, not necessarily because you're conflict avoidant or anything. But okay, anyway, so what I'm getting is that like maybe there were times where you let that, even that mask, drop completely. And I'm getting that you have so many of them on. And again, it's not to mislead anybody, because a lot of people have masks on because they don't know who they truly are, or because they like want people to view them a certain way. But I'm getting for like this collective, the mask was just protective because you felt like it's almost giving like Cancerian energy, where there's like that hard shell, but it's almost giving like I don't really eat like crab legs or anything, but it's giving that like, you crack the first layer of the shell off and then there's like another and then another and then another, and it may be like the illusion that you've found like the meat or whatever, but it's just like there's still more shell beneath it. That's kind of the, like, if you can see, like that Shrek thing that people are always saying like, oh, they have layers, but instead of your layers being like made of onion, it's like literally like hard like a shell, right? And so I'm getting that like, again, when you have felt like it was safe, or maybe you could have been manipulated by somebody and they like tricked your nervous system into feeling like it was safe to be fully vulnerable with that person, and then they disappointed you. Or, it could be for some of you that you have never been able to like drop the mask and go fully back to like your like childlike state, like the way that you were when you were little, which is like your true core self, like that personality, you know what I mean? Um the energy, even, because I think it's a myth saying that like you have to lose your vitality or can't be as excitable as you grow up. Obviously it's like situational or whatever, but you should still be able to revert back to that natural, authentic, like core energy, uh, of when you were a kid, basically. Um, but I'm getting that like you have attracted or like are attracting or you're in the midst of this, because this is like current energy, right? But take it as it resonates. If it's not happening for you right now, again, don't be like, oh, that's not happening for me. This is a positive message, so just claim it, okay? But yeah, so it's giving that like you are attracting high value, high quality connections. Um, and that's not about anything superficial, right? It's just that like, so say you've always had this vision, or like, and again, erase your like superficial, like if you only care about like what your person looks like or how they like, make you look in public being with them, that's not what this is about. It's like how you've always wanted to feel, or like what dynamic you've wanted in regards to like a romantic relationship, or like even like a best friend. And so you're attracting those, like you manifested them. They're going to be very like eerily specific. It's going to be stuff like they ask you, this is random, like what your dream car is, and like you tell them down to like the make and model or whatever, and it'll be like really like something like really random and niche, and theirs will be the exact same. Again, it doesn't have to be that, but it's something like oddly specific that's going to be exact, and it'll keep repeating, and then that's how you'll know you guys are like aligned or whatever. Make sure they're not stalking you first, obviously, because people can like fake alignment that way, especially with like the prevalence of like the spiritual community or whatever. But it's giving that like you are attracting or have recently entered high quality connections that are meant for you long term, like the ones that you felt always that were meant for you, but you kept like having false starts or whatever. Or it's like like the imitation of like what you truly desired or whatever. But now you have the real thing, and it's like you may be coming to the conclusion, or like this is again, this is like me telling you that like you are not as like you're not as like comfortable being truly vulnerable as you may have thought that you were. I think that there's a difference between being emotionally available and like being able to be vulnerable with somebody. I think that like it may catch you off guard encountering such genuine energy, and it may at first be a little uncomfortable for you to reciprocate that energy. But it's like I'm picking up that like whatever this connection is or whatever, it's going to feel like all you're going to have to do is sort of like mirror and match one another's energy. But it's giving like, so say you like meet somebody in a romantic sense or whatever, and then you guys talk for some time or like a month or so or whatever, and then they start to tell you like how they felt when you guys first met, start to open up about like their thought process at the time, right? Um, and then you may like what they say, but you could feel uncomfortable or like the sense of discomfort about like sharing the same details with them for some reason, maybe because it feels embarrassing, or you're like afraid to tell them about like what your, I guess, emotional thought process behind it was, because that's like it's not an oxymoron, because you still have like emotional intelligence or whatever. But yeah, I would just say that like if this is resonating for you and you do have trouble being vulnerable, or you're noticing that, mirroring the other person's energy first helps. And also try to sort of like figure out how to articulate your feelings um in more ways than just like catchphrases, like saying, oh, you're fine shit or whatever, like, but how do they actually make you feel? You know what I mean?